And we are kicking off episode number 13 here on the Let's Be Frank video podcast. I'm your host, Jason Duhe. Very excited to be talking about everything in football with you today, whether it be high school, college, or the Saints. We'll go ahead and bring on head coach Frank Monaker. Coach, another big weekend of high school football and college matchups. Some unpleasant surprises for some teams in Louisiana, but some triumphs as well. But let's dive into some of this high school action because semifinal week is this week and have nine divisions worth of solid, 8 divisions now, I should say, of some really solid football. And can't wait to look at some of these matchups.
No question. I mean, you find out the guys that ate the turkey or who were turkeys because there was some. Now he's down to the Final Four, and that's always an exciting time because sometimes the seeding works out pretty good, pretty accurate. Sometimes it doesn't. We'll go over that. Well, first in the non-select side, we have Zachary, number 5 seed, taking on the number 1 seed, Ruston. Ruston's, from what I understand, is a huge football team. I haven't seen him on tape, but I understand a lot from him. But Zachary is very talented, very skilled football team also. So then you have number 10, Westgate, was a surprise winner against Destrehan. And Destrehan that escaped a narrow win. East St. John went for 2. And I think that they thought they're doing the best thing. But, you know how I feel about going for 2 in a situation like that, because I want my offense and my defense to play. If we're going to lose, all 22 are going to play, not just one play on the coach's decision. But we always said all year long how talented Destrehan was, but they almost got their hat handed to them the other night. Moving down to D2, North Dakota, the number 4 seed, to take on Iowa, who was the number 1 seed all year long. For what we understand, that probably will go that way. But North Dakota also, from what we understand, can really score points. And then you have Lutcher, number 6 seed, against West Feliciana, the number 2 seed. But I think this is deceiving because West Feliciana has not played a tough schedule at all. Where Lutcher's been pretty much battle tested, and they blew out a Lakeshore team the other day that I thought was going to give them a better game. But I just think that quarterback is just unbelievable. So I think Lutcher's going to be headed for the Superdome myself, even though West Feliciana is 12-0. D3. Same parish. Here's you got St. James, the number 4 seed, playing against the number 1 Manning. Now, Manning I know is loaded, but St. James has some speed that can keep up with them. The only thing St. James has been giving up a lot of points, and so I don't know how that's going to work out, but Manning's going to be awfully tough to beat, especially up there where they're headed. Number 7, Amite against Union Parish. Number 3, Coach Spats at Union Parish. He's always got a very physical football team, got a great running back up there. So, and who knows? I mean, Amite, when you play for Amite, you have to be a tough guy, or you don't survive there. So that could be an interesting matchup too. But 7 versus 3, Division 4, Oak Grove against Haynesville. Oak Grove being an 8 seed, playing the number 5 seed at Haynesville. You go back and look at all the history when Red Franklin was there. Haynesville been in the Superdome, I don't know how many times, but they've been a lot of appearances. So those kids and those fans, they expect that. And then you have number 3, Magnum and Homer. It's number 2, Homer. So basically, that's when the power ranking works. When you see number 2 and number 3 end up in the semifinal ball game. And the number 1 seed is no longer there in that particular division. Moving on to the select side, at the very, very top, you have Brother Martin and Karen Crow. Karen Crow, number 8 seed, and Brother Martin, number 13 seed. And the Brother Martin is a beneficiary, I think, of a great draw. They got by St. Aug. They will now play their 3rd, actually, public school in the playoffs, and they have a very, very good chance of making it to the Superdome. After that, you have John Curtis, the number 3 seed, playing Catholic High, who's the number 2. So that's how you expect it to work out. Catholic High can play 3 phases, and so can Curtis. So that could be an excellent game. But Catholic High just might have just a little bit more season, and they're more balanced. Their offense can throw it, and they can throw it deep, and they can run it. So. But the bottom line is they still have to stop John Curtis. Division 2, E.D. White and St. Thomas More. E.D. White being 4 seed, St. Thomas More being the 1. Coach Hightower's got, he's got 350, 380 wins. And, a big program, a lot of kids out for football. So it's going to be hard for E.D. White to overcome them because E.D. White's more one-dimensional. than they are. Then you have Lafayette Christian, big winner over De La Salle last week, and didn't surprise anybody because Lafayette Christian is loaded with speed. They're the number 6 seed. They're going against Turley's the number 2, right there in Lafayette. I mean, they're right across the interstate from one another. So could be a very interesting battle. But look for Lafayette's speed to actually overcome here. Division 3, University High, number 8 seed versus Dunham. Now this is right across the street again. Two schools that not that far apart. They're within 10 miles of one another. University High dismantled Newman last week, and I think they picked off Manning, and I think he threw for less than 50 yards in that ball game. So that could be a real good matchup. But it's going to take a lot for Dunham to defeat them, even though University High played some real high power guys early, and that's why they ended up being an 8 seed. So they were a sleeper down there, just like Carr was earlier. D4, you have St. Martin's versus Vermilion Catholic. St. Martin's number 4 seed versus the Vermilion Catholic number 1 seed. That's how the bracket should work. Basically, it should end up like that if everybody holds serve. And in this particular case, St. Martin got a great running back, but I'm afraid that their road to victory has come to an end because they have to go to VC, and they're awfully big and talented. And then the next game, you have Ascension Catholic at number 10 against Washita Christian. Ascension Catholic is really playing well. They beat Riverside early in the playoff section here, and Washita Christian has always been there. It's been a dome contender for a long, long time, but don't be a bit surprised to see Ascension Catholic give them a tussle. This game is probably a game that if you had to predict the overtime game, this could be one for sure. I jumped over Division 3, and I jumped over Division 3, and I jumped over Notre Dame. Sorry about that, guys. Notre Dame and St. Charles, who's my school, and this is a matchup that has happened now. This will be the 3rd year in a row that we've met Notre Dame in the semifinals. We've met them several times in the past, and it's always a big ball game, tough game. It comes down to one particular play, and normally in the past it's been a special team play. And Coach Cook is, I don't know if he keeps saying this is last year, but he said that for 10 years. So I mean, he's going to play St. Charles and Coach Stein in that group, and they're healthy. And I think that they're ready for this ball game. It's going to be a heck of a battle, though, because I think that what Notre Dame does well is that they execute and they'll tackle, and so you're going to have to be in position to beat them. They're not going to give it away. It's a team that you're going to have to beat. So that should be a real good game. But going back, I think that's a brief rundown on that, and then we go to college. Jason, are we ready to go to college? LSU and Texas A&M.
Yeah, I want to mention a few things real quick, though. Coach, we talked about some of the matchups that you did. Destrehan is a team that I got to watch up close, Coach, and I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Destrehan because they had one rough game. But we kind of mentioned off air earlier in passing that I think Destrehan is every bit of their billing. I think they caught a East St. John team that was very hungry at the wrong time. They were a little bit banged up this past week. They had trouble in their passing game where they get most of their chunk yards, and I think that had something to do with it. I still truly believe that Destrehan is one of, if not the team to beat in these brackets. But one thing that's interesting, Coach, there are 3 teams that have never made a semifinals before. It is Iowa, North DeSoto, and St. Martin's, and 2 of those schools will play for a chance to make the state title. So an interesting thought going as we head into the college football section, as the first game that we're going to talk about is it was rough to watch. Regardless what your perspective is on the program, LSU falls to Texas A&M 38-23. Coach, we talked about it last week. We said this is a still talented Texas A&M team. They've kind of been reeling, but you are playing in a rough environment. And Texas A&M has talent. They just haven't put it together all year. They certainly didn't have trouble putting it on display Saturday night between just hard-nosed running the football right at this defense. And you mentioned they couldn't tackle, and I think that had a major impact. And LSU lacked intensity and focus, it seemed, in that game, and A&M was full of it. They had nothing to lose, everything to play for, and they showed up.
Yeah. I got to go back to what Coach Kelly always talks about, the process. And I think that they were a little bit too coy in here and relying too much on the process. I think that in this particular ball game, had it been me, I'd have been with more rah-rah. Said, get off your butt. And guys said, we need to get after him because you get your butt kicked. And I think that they went into the game being a little passive and say, well, what we've done up to this point, all we got to do is keep doing the same thing. But they needed a little bit more energy because there was so much at stake in this ball game. Regardless, forget about the Georgia game, but this game was even more important because I thought that even if you lose against Georgia, you're supposed to lose that game. But this is a game that you were supposed to win. So I think they went into that game without a lot of rah-rah. And they depending on, well, Daniel's going to be the same thing, and everybody's going to do the same thing they've done because we believe in the process. Well, that process did not bring any attention. You said it just now. And you can always tell when a team, and I hate to use this term flat, let's call it unemotional. You can always tell that one sloppy tackle, drop passes. When Lacey drops those two passes, one on the first drive, which is huge because that stops the drive. The second was another. Two easy plays. I'm not asking to lay out, make phenomenal catches. Two easy plays. And then even with that, when Daniels missed the read and not give the ball off to Emery and kept himself and caused the fumble, and not only was it a fumble, it ended up being a scoop and score. So with all those things, then it snowballed after that because really Texas A&M, the quarterback's a freshman. LSU made him look better than what he actually was. And the running back is good. But again, remember those things, sloppy tackling, that's always signs of a team being unemotional. Feel badly for him because Coach Keller did a phenomenal job there. And I mean, but pats on the back soon become kicks in the seat of your pants. And now everybody's questioning, well, what kind of game are they going to give Georgia? Let me tell you something. If they decide to bring it, I think Georgia's defense can be exploited if they decide to bring it because they've had some close calls in games that shouldn't have been close. Also, remember about I think the quarterback Stetson Bennett. I think he's really good. He's good at ball control pass, but he's sharp. I think if you put pressure on him and keep him contained, he's not going to run the ball. So that means that LSU could probably use coverages like two-man, which is a common coverage when you get a quarterback that can't run and stuff like that. But they're going to have to do a lot better job of tackling and being prepared in this ball game. But I do think they can give Georgia a tussle. Georgia's not going to look at them as being a viable opponent, but they realize that they have to win too, to make sure that they stay in the top four, which they will. Regardless of what happened, they'll be in the top four. But anyway, let's move on, Jason, to Tulane in Central Florida. So
yeah, and in that matchup, Tulane, of course, defeated Cincinnati 27-24. A huge win for them on the road, broke a massive home winning streak for Cincinnati, and that was a big win for this team. And of course, the bigger overlying factor is not only did that ensure that Tulane will play in the title game, but also host the title game, which is a massive advantage, seeing as they're going to get UCF at home once again. That revenge factor comes into play here, and we know that this team is going to be ready. Coach, what we discussed, I believe it was yesterday, that Tulane it has had almost every major call in their two biggest matchups go against them. And yet they found ways to not only be competitive this past week, but to find a way to win. And UCF, like I said, that was an egregious fumble call, in my opinion, that they missed and it ended up costing them the game. But regardless, this team doesn't let those types of plays impact them or phase them. They continue swinging, they continue throwing punches, and finding a way to not only be competitive late in games, but to be sitting here 10-2 today.
Well, let me say this, Jason. I don't know if there's a better coached team that does all the little things that you don't see behind the scenes that Coach Frisch handles, and he handles a lot of it himself. I mean, he turns over the play calling to the offense coordinator, the defense coordinator. They call the defensive signals also, the special team guy, but he's got his hand on everything. And that they're well coached in little things. I mean, they don't turn over the ball for the most part, and if they don't, I mean, they'll beat Central Florida. That's important. That hurt them last time, playing against them. But they do all these little things. Their special teams, in comparison, their special team compared to LSU is a joke. I mean, their return yard, punt return yard, the kickoff return, the coaches call those hidden yards. LSU gets none of those. And I mean, but Tulane's got a punt returner that's excellent. They got a kickoff returner that's excellent. The kicker has been good enough, so for them. But they play a little bit defense, they play a little bit offense, and they're solid on special team. And just came out that Coach Fritz now is the word is now that they come to an agreement to stay at Tulane. I'm tickled pink. But I really think that one time he was going, and because I think that Georgia Tech can offer some things that Tulane can't. I think Tulane would be silly to lose this guy, give him whatever he needs, whether it's through admissions or whether it's money or whether it's facilities. Give him what he needs because he's a perfect fit for Tulane. And I'm telling you, if he had the talent that some SEC schools have, there's no telling he'd be in that Final Four group. But he doesn't have that same talent, But he's got two fine linebackers. I will say that, and they make most of the plays. But this guy's an excellent football coach and even a better person.
Coach, I want to stay on this topic because I think you just opened the door for a really good question, which is I think you bring up a really good point because we discussed the other day, you had mentioned you really felt like he was going to take the job at Georgia Tech because the opportunity, coach at a Power 5 program. How much does the leave now, come to our program pressure kind of dissuade some coaches from leaving? Because look, Coach Fritz has been in this program for a while. He's built it up to 10-2, and he felt like he wanted to see things through, especially mid-season. Coach, you've mentioned previously that you had an opportunity to leave Tulane and go coach at Arizona, but you want to see things through, and that wasn't even in the middle of the season. That was between seasons. So how much do you think that impacts these coaches on saying, look, I really want this opportunity, but I want to see this season through with my guys, and therefore committing to that program for a longer time?
I think Jason had he not had this playoff game, I think he'd have left. But I think he wanted to play, and I think Georgia Tech, and I'm reading in between the lines, and I'm just guessing, but I think Georgia Tech wanted an answer right now so they can save their kids from the transfer portal. That's what I really believe. But I think Coach Fritz said, no, I want you these guys to at least coach them through this game, and I'll go after this game and before the bowl game. I really think that had a big issue in it. People, listen, I'm a big racehorse fan. One thing you do when you handicap horses, you look at a race that a horse didn't run well, you scratch that race. So last year, you got to scratch that season because they were in Birmingham, had no dormitories, had no practice facilities, no coaching offices, and they're not staying in their own bed, not eating the proper food and stuff like that. And plus they lead off with Oklahoma and Ole Miss. So I'd take last year and throw it out. They actually had a better team last year in terms of the personnel was concerned. So I'm tickled pink that he's going, and I hope that Tulane does make a lot of concessions for him aside from just the financial contract. I want to see them. I want to see him be able to do some things through the admissions office because he can't get the same guy in that SEC school can. So, but I understand that because I was there and I know I lived that. But yet on the flip side of it, if you had 85 guys that were NCAA qualified, how is that going to hurt the other 10,000 that are on campus? I don't know.
All right, Coach, and take a look at Idaho dropping their game to Southeastern, which got to host yet another playoff game, a big win for that program, and now they get to go on the road to take on Sanford after their bye week. But what an exceptional job that they've done there at Southeastern. And again, we got to talk to Coach Selfo just a week ago, and again, very proud of his program, and rightfully so. The job that him and his staff have done has been incredible, and it's awesome to see Southeastern be competitive, not on a bi-yearly basis, but in a yearly basis. They are not only making the playoffs, but making runs. They're winning their first game, which is the biggest step. You have to get. It's one thing to get there and get your foot in the door. It's another thing to win when there's no looking back and there's no tomorrow. And they've done that multiple times.
The kids are playing extremely hard for him. He's playing two different quarterbacks. They're playing hard. They trailed that entire game until the very end. That's I love this playoff on that level. I wish they'd have done that a long time ago in D1. And has all these distractors that they still have not come to the conclusion when that's going to come about. And I think that's phenomenal. The interest in this is just phenomenal. And they build it up. They don't realize that if they had a D1 playoff format with 8 teams or 16 teams, it would dwarf the Super Bowl. It'd make tons of money, and you still can include all those bowl games. You still these two matchups could be the sugar and the orange and the cotton, the whole deal. I don't get it. I mean, what have we done in high school? What have we done in Little League 9 and 10 baseball? I mean, it's a playoff format. So you look what baseball's done. It added a lot of interest, and the Phillies shouldn't even been there. So, I mean, they need to wake up and smell the roses. But a tribute to Coach Self for what he's done, and I'm excited for him going to Sanford, and don't count him out because they can score points.
Yeah, and unfortunately, switching gears to a team that couldn't score points, the Saints get blanked on the road. Coach, they dropped their game to San Francisco 13-0, and it seems like they just can't get things fixed no matter what. This is the first shutout they've had, and I believe it's been close to 2 decades. It's been a while. So what do the Saints do from here? Because Coach, the saddest truth is they're still in the hunt for their division title, and at this point, losing does you no good because you don't have any draft picks in your back pocket. You only get the second round pick, so it's not like let's drop as many games as we can to try to raise our draft stock. You've got to play for now because there's no waiting for tomorrow to have this light through the tunnel. This is what you are for the time being because you have all these players in long-term deals.
Seven times they crossed the 50-yard line. They're on the plus side 7 times. The plus side means they're going in to score. The minus side is on the other side, on your own 50. But I don't understand that they had a couple drop balls. You don't understand like an LSU game. Those 2 drop balls, that were momentum changers right there. And I told you this before. Bear Bryant said a game has 3 big momentum changes in it. And you don't know when they're going to take place. And but he has a couple drop balls. They blaming Dalton for everything. I mean, I guess they expect him to cure cancer. I don't understand it. But guys are dropping balls, and Kamara has 2 fumbles, uncharacteristic of him. Now, one of them, the second one, was a good shot. I get that, and that didn't help. Even Lutz misses a field goal. I mean, this guy's normally automatic. He's at 48 yards and stuff like that. But I really feel badly for him because they had an opportunity. Everything that could go wrong went against them. I thought the officiated, that catch of Olave. I mean, what I don't understand with the officials, they have to explain to me. All you hear is about with the knee touch. They didn't even bring out the knee. And even I love the official in the booth. And he's always wrong. The guy in the booth and that kind of guy. I said, if he was a weatherman, we'd have thunderstorms every day. But the bottom line, his knee did touch, and that should have been down automatically. Then the very last play of the game, the Saints' offensive play, Bosa was a step offside. And he ends up making the sack, and everybody gave him credit, but they never did show the replay. And how do your head lineman miss that? I mean, he should see that because that's his call. And I don't know how to see that. They didn't go back and replay it, but they congratulated the guy. I mean, to me, that official should be barred from another game. I mean, you put him on ice for a game or so because that's on the road. But anyway, the officiating was not in their favor. And I love Dennis Allen. I love him as a coach. But every now and then, I think you need to be on the official's case. I know Sean Payton would have done that. He'd be on the case and say, wait a minute, you need to question some things and be a little bit more adamant. And that doesn't come about crying. That's all about defending your team because you work real hard to get there.
Coach, I think we just found our one of our topics for next week. Because we've been holding back off that one. We need to have that discussion about how to deal with officials because you had a very, we'll say, unique relationship with officials over the course of the game. So I think we need to talk about that one next week. But again, they'll do it for our first segment. We want to go ahead and thank our sponsor before we head to a break. Our title sponsor, Accardo and Dufresne Law Firms. Samuel Accardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Accardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. River Parish is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. When we come back, we'll have Brummel head football coach Nick Monica, and later on we'll talk about, oddly enough, referees. We'll talk about the dwindling numbers in high school football in our Let's Be Frank segment. So remember, you're watching on Varsity Sports Now. Samuel Accardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Accardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana's sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
If you're looking for commercial or residential dump truck services, go with R&K Construction. This family-owned and operated business has great trucks and are big supporters of high school sports. Smoothie King LaPlace thanks the community for 29 years. Through the good times and the toughest times, Smoothie King has been here to serve our guests. Whether you're looking for a keto-friendly smoothie, a recovery smoothie, or a healthy, refreshing snack, Smoothie King has you covered. Discover all the ways to be your best self and rule the day with Smoothie King. If you're in need of storage space at your home or business, stop by and visit with the good folks at Acadia LLC. Seth Boudreaux and his employees are there weekdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Give them a shout at 985-359-1333 or visit them at 1301 West Airline Highway in LaPlace. Welcome back to the Let's Be Frank video podcast. We want to welcome our special guest, Nick Monica, head coach of the Roma Raiders. Coach, you got the chance to coach under Jay Roth, and of course, you have a good relationship with the old ball coach at St. Charles Catholic and Coach Monica from back in the day. What's it been like to get the opportunity to learn and grow from coaches who are so historic in Louisiana high school football?
Well, obviously, it's a huge advantage just to have a lot of experience to rely on from those guys. Especially growing up with it. I think that's the biggest thing, is just growing up and watching how different things, how they do different things. I was also able to play for my dad, so I think that has a lot to do with it. I never coached with him, so just playing for him, I think, taught me a bunch.
Coach Nicholas, I tell everybody the story about, when you guys were growing up with Ty, your brother, your oldest brother, and now the offensive coordinator at St. Charles, and Wayne, your first cousin, who you guys were roommates at one time at ULL for at least a semester. And y'all used to play football all the time. Y'all played together in the 7-on-7 games and played in the league and the whole deal. I mean, but from the very, very standpoint of football and coaching, I not once thought that you guys would all go on to be coaches, and certainly that's something I didn't push. But thanks to your mom, who's your biggest fan, she's probably out there right now with her pom poms on, because you're on, So I mean, you guys went the direction of coaching, which I was actually against, because I knew the hours with, and knowing you right now, and you're a lot like your brother, and a lot like Wayne, take it home with you, and you just don't relax. But I knew from the beginning that you guys had this innate thing about being a coach.
Yeah, I think we were kind of like every other kid. You grow up thinking that you're going to play it forever, but at some point it says that you can't. And we knew we wanted to stay involved in athletics and sports, and that's what we loved and still do. And so that was our passion. So if you can't play it, the next closest thing is to coach it and teach it. And, of course, there's some negatives that you touched on and tried to keep it from, but there's a lot of love and excitement that comes from it as well.
No question. I mentioned Jason last night about your background. I don't know if he knew this, but you actually started off. You played baseball and football, and you was actually the quarterback at St. Charles Catholic High School, and you played second base and middle infielder your entire life, and then you went on to ULL for a semester, and then you end up going to Wharton Junior College and on scholarship, played shortstop there. Had a real fine year. Then you end up transferring to LSU-E, and you made the playoffs, and then you ended up your career as a baseball player at UNO. And but then all of a sudden, when you got to Rumble, you were assistant baseball coach, became the head baseball coach under Coach Bowdry, and then after that, you went to football. And so that's a path that I actually followed. In fact, if I listened to your mom, I'd still be coaching baseball and not football. But how was the transition from baseball to football, and how did you come about with that decision?
Well, it's to peel back even to high school. I mean, I tell kids this all the time. Actually, the sport that I enjoyed playing the most in high school was basketball. Nobody even remembers that, but I enjoyed all sports, including basketball. But I think because I played college baseball, I had a lot more familiarity with it, and so I felt more comfortable stepping right into that and coaching that. And I was coaching the corners my first few years in football. But as I grew in football and learned a little bit more of the X's and O's, I thought the mental side of that was a lot more challenging. Baseball, I think the thing that compares the most to the mental side in football is calling pitches. And that's actually what I enjoyed doing the most, because it is a mental part to it where you have to, have a lot of educated guesses and try to outguess the hitter and outthink him. And I think football has a lot of those things in it. And that's ultimately what kind of pulled me away from baseball and more into that. I really enjoy the mental side of it and the challenges that come with it. And then teaching kids, there's a lot more to teach in football. And I think when you spend that much time teaching those little things to kids and then seeing it pay off, I think it's just that much more rewarding.
No, I had forgotten that you were also a point guard in basketball because you played three sports. In fact, I remember you telling me way back in May of your senior year, and it was right before exams of your senior year in May, and you said, "Dad, today will be the first day in 4 years that I go home right after school." Because you involved with one sport to the other, and I never forget that you made that comment. But Coach, you were a quarterback, and so what made you become? I know you played with coach under Coach Jack Lord for a year or two there at Rummel before you became the defensive coordinator, where you guys had a lot of success on defense. But what made you go to the defensive side of the ball and not the offensive side?
So that was the opening. I really would have preferred to coach quarterbacks, but they didn't have an opening. The guy I was leaving was a corners coach, and so that was kind of where I found my position. And then jumped into special teams pretty early too. So I got involved with special teams early and coached corners, and then started. I guess as I got older and more comfortable with things, I started to work a little bit more closer with Coach Jack Law and some of the decision making and things like that. So that's when I really started to fall in love with the defensive side of it, and I've enjoyed it since.
Yeah, I know that Coach Roth had a lot of confidence in you, and he was a coach, and he made you the coordinator after Coach Jack Lord was gone. And then Coach, all of a sudden, when Coach Roth stepped aside, you became the head coach, and he recommended you highly for the job. And at the time, I said, "Be careful with that." I don't know, you were pretty young, but you took the job, and I was a little concerned about it. But your first year there, you guys went. What was it, 13-0, and had a phenomenal from win the state championship, and you had a phenomenal run. I think your defense, if I'm not mistaken, you have to correct me, had a number of shutouts. I don't think you scored until like game 9 or something like that. Can you recall that?
Yeah, week 7 we gave up 1, and then week 8 we threw up another shutout. Week 9 was the big national game against Curtis, so we gave up a couple scores there, and then week 10 was another one. So I think we shut out 8 regular season opponents. But I tell people all the time, because they still talk about that defense. A lot of that had to do with, we had 7 of those guys started for 3 years, and they took their lumps when they were young, because we had some kids that didn't belong out on the field at that time. But so they took their lumps, and we grew up watching them become better players. And I think a lot of that had to do with just experience and understanding the scheme and being in the right spot a lot of times too. But we're also fortunate that those kids grew up physically and turned out to be pretty good football players as well.
Yeah, man. And, that people don't realize that you also had successes as a baseball. You played for the state championship in two different years. I think I don't know if they're consecutive years, but played for the championship. And in those days, it was not 2 out of 3. It was just one game. So it's a credit to you about what you've done with that and in 2 different sports. Coach, this year I noticed that your schedule was awfully tough. You got 6 wins out of it. And I'm one of those guys that said, you look at the Catholic League. I mean, it's brutal. And then you guys, I think you started off with Washington Parish, and you end up you win that one. Then you beat U High. You end up losing the overtime game. No, you went for 2. I'm sorry, against Scotlandville, and because you were 4-0 up until that time. But I look in the playoffs right now. 3 of the 4 teams that in D1 select playoffs you've played. And, so you can kind of compare that. So what's your take on that about who do you think's of the 4, where do you think that's going to end up in the Superdome?
Well, I've obviously playing Catholic and Curtis, very similar, actually. Different styles, but similar. I think that both team strengths is their offensive line. In fact, I've talked to both coaches and kind of shared that with them. But I don't think it's a secret that the bottom side of the bracket was extremely tough due to Carr having to forfeit those games. It put them in a stronger side. And I thought the 2 best and most talented teams played last week in the quarterfinals, which is a shame. But, it's going to be another good game this weekend with Curtis and Catholic, because Curtis is just as good as those 2. And then on the other side, Brother Martin from our district. I haven't seen Karen Crow much, just from stuff I've heard and read. But I think our league is tough, and so is Karen Crow. So both teams are coming from really strong districts. And Brother Martin's, they're full strength. I know they made a couple changes on offense at the quarterback position to be a little bit more versatile with that receiver. But I think they're going to be tough to beat. I think they're on the right side, had a good draw, and are playing pretty good football. So I think they're going to be tough to beat. And, obviously, I think Catholic is probably the most talented team, especially after beating Carr.
Right. And let's go to Coach, just talking a little bit about, I can't let the schedule. You played that great schedule. You beat U High on the road. You played Shaw. And naturally, you defeated Brother Morton. That was a big game for you. But, Coach, we got one of the best receivers in the world right now is Jamar Chase. And who's some of the other guys that you have? I know you have several guys that are playing college ball. Can you elaborate a little bit on the guys from Rummel that are playing college ball? I know you got Stamps that's also committed to go to LSU. So who's some of the guys that you have out there right now?
College, so Donovan Kaufman, he was the MVP in the 19 game. He's at Auburn. He signed with Stanford out of high school, Vanderbilt out of high school, and then the head coach at Stanford was the DC at Auburn. So when he left, he took him with him. We have a kid right now, Quentin Cage, who he went to Nichols out of high school, had a really good freshman season. I think he was even freshman All-American. Then he went to LSU. And he wasn't on scholarship, so he was allowed to transfer again. And now he's at UTSA, who just won that conference. So he's doing really good things for them. We got a corner, Gavin Holmes at Wake Forest. I think this is his first full year of starting. I'm going to forget some people.
The quarterback.
Kobe Fields is at LSU. Evan Francione's at LSU. He's a receiver. He was actually the captain for their last home game, which is good to see because he's a walk-on. Kobe Fields is a linebacker who transferred from South Carolina. But a lot of people talk. Jamar gets a lot of the headlines, especially because he's an offensive guy. But Christian Fulton's doing really well in the NFL as well. And those two guys went at it in the divisional championship last year in the playoffs. So that was fun to watch because those two guys used to go at each other pretty good in practice all the time.
Right. And the quarterback for ULL he's starting, isn't he?
Yeah. Chandler. He's he's having a decent year. This is his first full year starting. I think he was the backup for a little while, but now he's back starting, and it looked like they're going to get a bowl game now.
Yeah, Coach. Before I talk about the kids, Landry and Logan, two girls that are really big cheerleaders at every ball game, and your great wife Casey. What do you see? What do you like to see changes as far as things that might be we can do, make the sport better? One of my things I'm going to talk later on in the show. I'm going to talk a little bit about the numbers in football, because as I go around the state and I watch different players and different teams, I see that numbers are sort of dwindling in the sport of football, and some schools have still maintained their numbers, but I see a lot of changes in the culture of what football is all about.
Yeah, we're seeing it for sure. One thing I do not like is this new rule that they passed this recently. It's not just 4-on-1s year round anymore. So I know a lot of kids are playing year round travel baseball, and I think by allowing kids to play or to practice baseball with their school now year round, I think that's just going to pull more out of the sport. We haven't really dealt with it. Our baseball coach does a really good job of working together with the football kids. He pushes them to football because he knows that how important it is and how much it helps him. But I didn't think that was a very good rule to pass. I think that's just going to pull kids out of other sports and more into the travel baseball, which is always drawing more and more interest.
Yeah, you have that in everything now. I mean, you got that. You have that in basketball, and the girls are suffering from that with the travel volleyball and things of that nature. But it's more than one sport. And Coach Cazzo, I think, he's been a football coach in the past. He's got a background in that. I think he understands that. Well, Coach, listen, you got to kiss the girls for me and Casey. I appreciate it. That you taking your time. I know you still got a lot going on with the weightlifting and stuff like that, and you can always welcome here. I know you're gonna show up when your mama cooks you beef stew and stuff like that for sure, and things like that. But Jason, you have a question for Coach Nicholas?
Just a football question, real quick. Coach, a lot of people talk about the Catholic League and how strong it is. Well, what's one thing that from the inside that many people don't know from the outside about how difficult it is and why it's so difficult to play in the Catholic League week in, week out, in baseball and in football, since you've coached in both?
Well, I tell you, it's relentless. And I think the biggest thing is that, people say it and they think it's coach talk when you say there's no days off or no weeks off, but there's no games off, but it really is. And it's extremely competitive. I think this year in football was just as good as any year as far as the depth. There was no team that couldn't beat the other. I think Carl was extremely talented this year, but they also had a huge senior class. So I just think it was, ultra competitive. And what happens a lot more that you deal with in football and baseball is the injuries that just occur. And it's a lot of things that could be nagging or just something that doesn't allow you to be full strength. And the changes that you have to make week in and week out, that, again, nobody might realize. But it's a grind. I do think that the kids, they love it because every week's a big game. So, a lot of weeks we show up, to install a game plan. We don't have to worry about, I guess, as much, if you're playing a lesser opponent, because we don't have any. And I really thought our whole schedule was like that this year. It kind of felt like we played 10 weeks of the Catholic League. But I think that's very difficult. And then the baseball side, it's just like always, it's about matchups and pitching. And I know we went a few years ago, we started playing 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And once you started doing that, it was about when your pitchers were lining up. So, you might have your third guy going against somebody's best that day. And that's always got a lot to do with it in all levels. So, baseball's a little bit different because, it's more about that guy on the mound can help you out a ton. Whereas you don't really have that luxury in football. You got to put 22 guys in the field.
One thing that goes up when I coached Catholic League, I couldn't get used to was the routine because sometimes you play a Friday game and then a Saturday game and maybe even a Thursday game. And sometimes you're in a 6-day week or 7-day week. And I never could get used to that, because over here on the river, you play every Friday. And everybody scouts you. So the whole staff is there. So it's a coaching clinic at the game in the bleachers. So, but Coach, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking your time. And don't forget that shirt. I wear extra large. Okay. And, so and you don't have to wash it. I'll wash it for you. Okay. But thank you for doing this for me tonight.
All right.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Sure.
We want to once again thank head coach Nick Monica for joining us on the Let's Be Frank video podcast. We would like to also thank LSR for sponsoring the Let's Be Frank video podcast. LSR produces Southern Cane pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. Southern Cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets. When we come back, we'll talk referees in Football 101, dwindling numbers in high school football, and we'll talk about quarterback clubs. So remember, you're watching on Varsity Sports Now. Samuel Accardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Accardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern Cane pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana's sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern Cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
If you're looking for commercial or residential dump truck services, go with R&K Construction. This family-owned and operated business has great trucks and are big supporters of high school sports. Smoothie King LaPlace thanks the community for 29 years. Through the good times and the toughest times, Smoothie King has been here to serve our guests. Whether you're looking for a keto-friendly smoothie, a recovery smoothie, or a healthy, refreshing snack, Smoothie King has you covered. Discover all the ways to be your best self and rule the day with Smoothie King. If you're in need of storage space at your home or business, stop by and visit with the good folks at Acadia LLC. Seth Boudreaux and his employees are there weekdays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Give them a shout at 985-359-1333 or visit them at 1301 West Airline Highway in LaPlace. Welcome back to the Let's Be Frank video podcast, and we'd like to thank our sponsor, Riverlands Insurance, for being a part of this broadcast. Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has always been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen. We want to go ahead and look at the Let's Be Frank segment for today. And Coach, you want to dive into the dwindling numbers in high school football. So, Coach, can you discuss why you believe that's happening and how that's impacting schools in general?
I'd love to. This would be one of my favorite topics because, we all grew up with this great game, and what I'm finding out is that there are a lot of kids that are not playing the sport, and we're unique at St. Charles Catholic. We still have 100 players there. There's some programs that still really big and very successful because of numbers. You need numbers. It's a sport that requires that. Maybe you can platoon or something like that. That's a story for another day. What platooning really means. But I got some things that I'd like to get off my chest. Number one is that I saw a team the other night that has over 500 kids in school, but yet they dressed out 35 players. And I said, I don't understand that. And, I said, so why? What's the reason for it? Well, number one, and I'm saying, because the kids that know that playing football is hard. It's year-round training. It's year-round training. You're going to have to be there in the weight rooms, year-round training. You can play the other sports, but it's year-round training. Number two, you're going to play 10 games. You're going to play 10 games a year, and if you're lucky, you play more than that. You'll go in the playoffs. If you're lucky, you play a lot more. Where other sports allowed, other sports, you might play in basketball, for instance, you're going to have a 32-game schedule, and maybe more with the summer. You might play 40 or 50, and so you're going to play more games. Where football, you're going to play once a week for 10 weeks. Baseball, you might play another 32-game playoffs, and then with American Legion, you talk about more games there. So that's why kids, they want to play and that sort of thing. Number three, practice and playing with the elements. In football, I don't care if it's snowing outside. Justin, that's our producer. I don't care if it's snowing outside, if the humidity is 100%, or whatever the conditions might be. If it's muddy, you're going outside to practice, and a lot of places don't have the luxury of turf fields. So, when you play another sport, you play basketball, you're inside, you're in air conditioning and stuff like that, and that's a little bit different than the number four. Coaches are responsible for a lot of them. They're pigeonholing these kids. They're taking their kids and they're locking them up in the gym. And the baseball guy said, "No, you don't go play this sport. You might get hurt. You might be, you might be a major league prospect and stuff like that." So that's happening on every level that you're looking at. So they're taking their kids and they're keeping them as their own. That's a very, very selfish thing to do. Because I think a kid, just like my son did, my two boys, they played 3 sports in high school. And I wanted to have that experience and to play that. Because I think that's big. Their time will come in that sport where they'll get better and have a lot of work to do. Number 3, players have a tendency to choose the path of least resistance. They have a tendency to do what's easy. So if I'll play a sport that's easy, I'm going to go play soccer. It's easy. It's cheap. I'll go play basketball, play inside. I'll go play baseball. It's a fun sport. I get the bat and I get to hit or pitch or something like that. So it's easy. Number 6, some are afraid. But all the hype out there, how tough football is, and it looks like it's a brutal sport. There are more rules now that really protect the player than ever before, and it's not nearly as rugged as it is. In fact, when we practice, we don't even tackle kids on the ground anymore. And we don't even practice in full pads anymore. Most people have gotten away from that because if they have an injury, they want to make sure it does take place in the game. And so you can have these soft tissue injuries. I understand that, but you can have that in any sport. So especially the sport of soccer, it's a lower extremity sport. There's a lot of knee injuries in the sport of soccer. So, but that's another thing. Okay. Next, the basketball guy. He puts his players in the gym and he tells them, "said Listen, you guys need to stay here because I'm gonna make you a great athlete and we're gonna win." But my thing is, if I got a 6'3" guy and he's playing basketball, he's average on the college level. You take a 6'3", 6'4" guy in high school and you put him on a football field, he's a prospect. He's a recruitable athlete, especially if he's got some skills. So as soon as he's out there, the coaches say, "Man, that's the wow factor that they want." Well, if he's in a gym playing all the time, and that's 6'3" guys, you can go to every gym in America to find one like that. So the bottom line, these basketball coaches that are doing that kid and that family a big disservice. So look at Jimmy Graham. That for years, he played 1 year college football. Ended up being a great All-Pro tight end at one time. Soccer. A lot of kids are going to soccer because it's cheap. It's cheap and it's easy, and they start playing at a young age. You go into playgrounds now, and there's soccer goes all over the place. And some of those kids never go. They never go to football. And, I always went to the soccer coach just to get a kicker. But, most of those kids don't go to football. So that's eating away at it. Basketball eating away. Baseball eating away. There's a coach just the other day approached our coach at school and says, "Coach, how do you get your guys to play baseball and football?" He says, "Because I got 9 guys that can help me playing baseball, but they all think that they're going to be, Derek Jeter, So and those schools are playing year round. And the great orthopedics will tell you, listen, your arm needs rest. Your arm needs rest. You have a kid that pitches in this league, then he goes to another league and pitches in another league. And all of a sudden, there's no pitch count there. And who's controlling that? The LHSA at least has a pitch count attached to it. But, in baseball, every parent thinks that their son's going to be the next Derek Jeter, and he'll pay big bucks to play travel baseball. We had that talk early in the show, and which I don't like. And next thing, parents themselves have gotten softer. I've had parents say, "Well, I don't want my," and I'm talking my dads that were players themselves say, "I don't want my son to play football. I don't want him to get hurt." I said, "What are you talking about? It's more than just playing football. It's about the camaraderie. It's about the structure that you put in his life, and the accountability that you put in the kid's life." So that's what football gives you more than anything else. That which people don't understand. And then they bring up, well, he didn't have time for it. You get all these excuses. He didn't have time. I want him to study. I had one of my better football players played 1 year for me because he wanted to be the valedictorian, and he ended up being a valedictorian. But he played 1 year, but he could have played more than that. I said, wait a minute now. Everybody on this team is going to study. Everybody's going to take the same courses. So I don't understand the thing, but a lot of it is they don't want to sacrifice their time with it, and there are a lot of really selfish parents that they don't want to be burdened with bringing them to practice, picking them up from practice, and doing all the things that a real good parent should do. So that's my take. But yes, what are the solutions for it? All right. Number one, your administration has to be on top of this and be aware of that because they have to understand how important it is. My very first principal I ever worked for at Luttrell High School, his name was Norman Buckner, and he said he walked down the halls. If he saw someone, and maybe a little meek kid, a boy or girl that was sort of shy, he'd go up to him and said, "What do? You play football or do you play sports?" And he said, "No." He said, "Well, I want you to be a manager." And he'd tell a little girl, "I want you to be a flag corps. I want you to be in the band. I want some of that." He was really big in involvement. And that's the administration needs to be on top of that to make sure that takes place. Number two, your AD. The AD must show some structure and sit down with those coaches and say, "Wait a minute now, we're going to put rules in place where, little simple rules that you can't go to another sport till this sport's over." I think that's easy rule to implement into your program. But you can't let a coach say, "Well, that's been highly successful," and I see it. I can name a ton of them right now. Been highly successful. None of their kids play any other sport. Excuse me. So the AD has to sit in there and he has to give them the rules right up front. So you have to have a strong AD. 3, coaches have to buy into it. You can't have coaches that are selfish. They have to buy into it, and they have to create a great atmosphere to get that guy there. You know what I mean? Yeah, because if you create a bad atmosphere, you can tell the success of a program by the coach. Excuse me. So if you have a lot of numbers out there, that coach is doing something right. Those kids want to be out there, but if you see numbers really down, it's all about the coach and whether you want to be there or not. Parents must be supporting kids. That's number 4. That's a solution. You got to get parents supporting the fact, I want my kid to play 2 sports. I want them to play 3 sports, whatever it is, boys or girls. That's important. 5, players themselves. I want a player to enjoy the journey in high school. I want a player to experience being at the line when it's 1-on-1. I want to be able to experience being at the plate with the 3-2. I want to experience football, throwing a touchdown pass or catching a touchdown pass or making a game-winning tackle. Desire Street Academy was a school that was created in New Orleans years ago, and before it was closed down because of a hurricane. Danny Warford was the Heisman Trophy winner, and he started the school here. He had a rule when he first started it that every boy in school had to play. It was all boys school. Every boy had to play 2 sports. I thought that was an awesome rule. And number 6, college coaches, they cannot mandate that guys go to these so-called camps. In other words, they take them away from a school. Like in the middle of a football season, here's a college coach having a baseball tryout. Well, those kids want to play college baseball at LSU. So he's having a baseball tryout in the middle of football season. Those kids are missing practice. They need to work together with the high school kid. So I think all of this and whatever, we need to increase our numbers or we're going to lose a very, very great sport and the greatest sport that you can possibly have as far as team is concerned.
Thank you, Coach, for that. And we're going to jump right into our next topic, which is going to be our Football 101 segment. So in Football 101, we want to talk about referees. So, Coach, can you give us the details on referees?
Oh, this is very, very simple. We're not bashing referees in this one. It just tells you exactly what they do. So quickly, the officials and their duties. Because a lot of people say, well, how many officials do they have? Number one, in high school, especially in the playoffs now, for the next few weeks, you will see 7 officials. That's mandated by the state. LHSA said you have to have 7. And there's some associations that are only doing 5. But when you get to this far in the playoffs, there will be 7, and there will be 2 clock operators. So I'll go through. The white hat is known as the real referee. He's the guy that's stands behind the quarterback. Okay, and he makes the signals into the press box, and if he's mic'd up with a mic, he would tell you what the infraction is, and sometimes might even tell you the number, which I wish they wouldn't do, But he's called the white hat, and so he's in charge of the whole group out there. Then next you have the guy, they call him an umpire. He's not a baseball umpire. He's the guy that stands behind the defensive line, and sometimes in a way he's the guy that gets run over. In fact, what they've done in the NFL, they put him behind the quarterback, just like he's opposite the referee. But the umpire is responsible for holding calls in the offensive line. He watches those 5 offensive linemen, making sure that they have the right numbers. He's responsible. He calls illegal procedures. He calls snap infractions and things like that. And basically, but he calls holding in the line or chop blocks or something like that. That's his job. Then you have the head lineman. We say, well, what's the head lineman? The head lineman is the guy, he's opposite the press box. He's on the visiting side, and he's lined up on the line of scrimmage. He's lined up on the LOS. He's responsible for making alignment calls if somebody's offsides. He's responsible for the chain crew. He's responsible for the down and distance guy to make sure that they move. He should make sure that they tag it. There's a tag that goes on the line to make sure that when they do measure, that the 10 yards are correct. And then opposite him, on the other side of the line, is the line judge. So you have the head linesman. The line judge is on the home side, and he basically makes sure there's no offsides and things like that. And he makes sure that there's no holding on the perimeter or any play coming out that side like that, offsides. Now remember, any of these can call any penalty that they want to. Okay, all right. Then you have the side judge. The side judge he's on the side of the head linesman. He's 25 yards deep on the opposite side. 25 yards deep. So he's looking for interference calls, and he's also responsible for counting the numbers to make sure that 11 people on the field and not 12. Then you have the back judge. The back judge is the guy directly behind everybody, normally to the tight end side. Okay, it's the back judge. He stands behind 25 yards deep behind everybody. He's normally looking for interference calls or things like that in the back, and he's also responsible for being underneath the upright on a PAT field goal. And then you have the field judge. The field judge is he's also underneath the goalpost on that, and he's deep in the field. So you have a field judge. You have a line judge, you have a back judge, side judge, you have a head linesman, umpire, and then you have the referee. So that's the 7 on the field that you see. The other 2 are, one is the clock operator, and he handles the clock, and that's a point of contention I've been talking about for the longest time. I don't know why they need to send somebody to operate the clock when we can provide our own because we know our clock. And I said, and my argument there is that for basketball games, they get a coach, somebody to do it from the home team, as long as it's an adult. Well, anyway, they send a clock operator and they send a 40-second clock operator. So that's 40-second clock operator, as most of you know by now. It's been a good rule. It's been a big adjustment they put in about 3 years ago, is that soon the ball is set down, the 40-second clock starts. And I think that's been some uniform in college also. So those are the 7 positions on the field, and basically what they do and what their job is, and these guys they make in high school they make about $100 a game, and it's unfortunate. I'd love to see more young people get involved with it because they certainly need more people because there's a shortage of officials as we speak.
Thank you, Coach, for that. And let's go ahead and take a look at our next segment, which is our Blitz the Ball Coach segment, where we get to ask you a question. And the question is, what opportunities did you have to leave the state or be a head coach in college?
So, Jason, it's funny that question has come up a couple of times. I was in college for 12 years, and I was off and on a couple of times. But first of all, what had happened in when I went to Larry Smith hired me to go to Tulane in 1979. We went 9-2. We played Penn State in the Liberty Bowl. Right after the Liberty Bowl was over with, Coach Smith. I shouldn't say right after. Sorry, we went through spring training, and in April, the head coach at the University of Arizona left, and so Coach Smith was offered the job, and he took it. And I remember it like yesterday. He offered me an opportunity to go with him to Arizona. And see that we had everybody coming back in 1980 at Tulane, I decided, and things changed because there's a coach that promised a guy that to be a coordinator to go with him, and I was going to go help him. I was going to be the run coordinator. He was going to be the pass coordinator. But that changed, so we both ended up staying. So that was a no move on our part. And I only had one child at the time, living in an apartment. So I could have actually made the move. And since that time, Coach Smith went from there. He went to USC as the head coach, and then he ended his career at the University of Missouri. But the second time was that in 1984, Mac Brown took the Tulane job, and I had just left the college ranks, and I was at Jesuit High School at the time, and Coach Brown offered me a position to go back with him. And I mulled over that over and over again. I didn't know if I wanted to get burned again in college. And so I turned him down. But from there, he wins and he goes to North Carolina. And then from there, he went to the University of Texas. Now, as most of you know, he's back at North Carolina. So that was another no move and on my part. And then in the 90s, early 90s, I was offered a position. I want people to know, I applied for the Nicholls State job 4 times. 4 different occasions. It might have been 5. Well, one particular time they offered it to me as an AD and / head football coach, and the circumstances were different because I had just become a coordinator at Tulane. The coach gave me a little raise and the whole deal, and I ended up that I turned that down. So I had an opportunity to go there, and I had some minor inquiries and at a couple places. One was being an assistant, believe it or not, at Oregon State or Mississippi State. A good friend of mine that was the coordinator at Mississippi State. The name was Lynn Amedee. And then I had a guy that he gave me a standing opening to go to Marshall University with him, and I decided not to go. But I look back at it, Jason, as far as career moves. I wouldn't swap what happened for nothing in the world, but I look at it as far as career move. Had I moved out of state, I think I'd had an opportunity to come back as a head coach at somewhere, the LSU or Tulane, because people, as soon as you leave the state, they think your resume explodes, your resume, and they think you're more valuable of a commodity. But if you stay here, they say, well, maybe that his resume is the same. But as soon as you leave the state for a couple of years, all of a sudden they think that you're a lot smarter person. So, but basically, I just want to clear that up, and because people have asked me that several times.
Coach, do you think that you mentioned the fact that if you leave the state, then somehow you become this more valuable commodity? Do you believe that's because it's like you want what you don't have type of thing? Like if you're in state, then you are an attainable coach, you're an attainable commodity. But once you leave, it's like, well, we don't want everybody else getting to reap the rewards of this guy that grew up in our state. It almost comes across like that way, because you're not the first person I've heard say that, and I've seen that at all levels of the college game, where guys go out of state or they're an assistant coach at a school, and everybody's like, well, this guy would have been a great coach, but nobody wanted to hire him at the time. But as soon as they bolt for the door, everybody's trying to call for them to come back.
Oh, Jason, in the coaching profession, especially in football, it's the only profession that I know of. People don't hire for resume. People don't just look at this guy looks good, I'm going to hire him. It's all about contacts. And it's all about people that stay on the phone and making contacts and keeping up with people. And you know him and you know this guy, so forth. But they're not going to pick up a sheet of paper and look at your resume and that. So, but yes, I'm telling you, had I left the state, all of a sudden being the same guy with the same amount of knowledge, had I left the state for a year or two, gone to Arizona a couple of times, and then all of a sudden the people at LSU or Tulane would call you back. You know what I mean? Because they think you've expanded your knowledge and now you're a smarter person. And I've seen it happen in a lot of places.
Could you ever regret not going back to the college game a little bit sooner? Again, I know you were at St. Charles for quite some time. Is there any seed in the back of your mind that kind of says, what if?
No, there was not, because once I got settled in and slept in my own bed every night and got away from the recruiting scene, I loved recruiting. I thought recruiting was just an extension of the season. I looked at it as a game. I couldn't wait to get out there and try to beat somebody on a player. You know what I mean? I thought that was really refreshing and stimulating. But I didn't miss a lot of things with it. But I learned so much by being a college coach because you sit in the room 16 hours, and that's what it was 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're going to learn some football. You know what I mean? Even if you're a mushroom, you're going to learn something. But, but the bottom line is I didn't miss the hours. I slept in my office 2 nights a week. Didn't see my kids grow up. And my 2 boys, I didn't see them play. In football, I might have seen them play maybe 5 games or something like that. So that was pretty rough. But on the flip side of it, I look back on it. The money they're paying them now, just compared to what I made. I mean, it was just unbelievable. But they're paying the lowest assistant is making 6 figures, and nobody on our staff at that time made 6 figures. The head coach did, and I was about the only one.
Thanks, Coach, and appreciate looking at that. And let's go ahead and talk about your Thanks for the Memory segment, where you want to discuss Quarterback Club.
Yeah, Jason, this is something that I didn't get a chance to. I wish I knew. I remembered all of those. When I first went to Lutcher High School, I was an assistant, and they had a quarterback club. They weren't doing very well because things were not good. They had a old grumpy coach and that sort of thing, and so we tried to revive the quarterback club. Now, Lutcher High School probably has the most vibrant quarterback club in the whole state. I mean, they average over 150 members every Tuesday night. They serve a great meal, and it's the same chicken and dirty rice. And what's funny, they'll serve 700 plates out of the back. And nobody in Lutcher cooks on Tuesday night. They go get that plate and the whole deal. But anyway, we built that thing up at that time, and since that time we had a good one. Riverside had one. St. Charles still has theirs on a Tuesday night, and I just want to thank all those presidents of the quarterback club and the board members and the other people that participated in it, because they did so much for you, especially those quarterback club presidents. They had to organize the meetings and plus do all these projects on the outside. And I just wish I had a list of all my former quarterback club presidents, and I need to research it to send them a Christmas card one day, because special thanks to them. They were phenomenal. But the organization starts with the leader, and that leader would get people out there and get people on the board. They were prepared to support the program. They did things that give things like fix things for you. If you call them up on the phone, I need this electrical wire fixed. I need to put up this light pole or something like that. I need a lawnmower fixed, and those guys would be there, and they couldn't wait to do it, because most of the time their kid was on the team and stuff like that. But I want to break down basically what happens. All these meetings, because like I said, I started when at Jesuit High School, and the priest said, "Wait a minute now." He said, "You're going to have a quarterback club?" He said, "Tell me how this works." I said, "Well, this is what we do. We have a meeting, and I have a guest speaker, and then I'll get up there to talk, and I'll answer questions." He said, "You're going to answer questions?" I said, "Yes." He said, "I can't wait to see this." They had not heard of that before. I said, "Well, I'd rather give them information right there on the spot on the podium, and where you're not talking about it in the bleachers. If somebody asks why you did something, why did you make this call, I want them to know why I made that particular call, or something like that." So, but basically, the format would be like, the president would call the meeting to order. Then everybody would go eat. There's a plate, and they always have, there's always food around. I mean, no matter what they do, they always eat, especially in the country. They serve food for everything. So anyway, then after the meal, they normally have a guest speaker. They would get a college coach or a coach somewhere, or maybe a sportscaster or a sports writer from somewhere that has a high school interest, and you speak, and then the head coach gets up. The head coach will talk about his team, and then he would talk about give basically a scout report of the previous week, and then a scout report of the upcoming opponent. And so they always had other fun things like door prizes and stuff like that. But the biggest thing is, after that, the season was over, they got involved with fundraising. I know at St. Charles Catholic, we had the biggest golf tournament in the state. I mean, we had something like 80-something teams in the golf tournament, and that money generated from that it pays for bus trip, pre-game meals, post-game meals, and so many other equipment items that you might need for the weight room or stuff like that. And I mean, it's priceless what they can do for you. And even the big thing is I didn't mind the question and answer. I didn't mind that at all because I wanted them to know. I mean, if they knew more football than me, good, they could be on my staff. I'd give them my whistle. But the bottom line is that I wanted to answer a question for them because I didn't want them to go in the bleachers and say, hey, this is such and such. But somebody could say, wait a minute, if you'd have been at a meeting, and I used to get upset if somebody would call the front office and say, well, what time is the junior varsity game? And I would say, if you'd been to the meeting, you would know because all that information, it's all about being transparent. That's the new guru word. If you're transparent with your parents, they understand what's going on. They all want to know what's going on, whether you give them a written itinerary or whatever. But basically, the quarterback club presidents and the board members, to me, have been priceless over the years. And those places like Lutcher was still going strong. We had a big one, still got a real big one at St. Charles Cafe. I know Riverside still has theirs, and Jesuit High School no longer has theirs. But the bottom line, I can't say enough about those people that have helped me through the years, and thank you very much for helping me out.
Thanks, Coach. And we want to go ahead and take a look at our last segment, which is our lock of the week. I've been atrocious this year, so you actually made me change my pick because we discussed before who you were taking. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pick a completely different game so I can jinx somebody else. So go ahead and let us know who you took.
I'm going to pick Utah, and Utah is a dog, a 3-point dog, and I'm going to pick them. And only I'm basing this on I think USC is a good football team, but I think they'll be a little down after that big win last week in the championship game.
I'm going to go the opposite way, not with that game in particular, but in terms of from a big win to a big loss. Clemson, -7.5 against North Carolina. I haven't been a massive believer in North Carolina. They pulled out some wins versus some smaller schools by the skin of their teeth multiple weeks earlier on in the year. Again, I don't think they've really lived up to their billing for the majority of the season, and I think Clemson is going to be coming off that loss, a tough loss to an in-state opponent, and they're going to look to take it out on North Carolina. So Clemson with these 7.5 points. And that'll do it for tonight's show. So make sure to follow us on our social media. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. On Facebook, it's the Let's Be Frank Video Podcast. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok is the LBF Podcast. And you can also listen to us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and also on YouTube. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back here once again next week. So we want to thank you guys again for listening. So for Justin Thomas, for head coach Frank Monica, I'm Jason Duhe, and remember, let's let the ball turn, let the good times roll.
God bless everybody. Good night.